Another segment of Survive and Thrive with Sherry. As you can see, I'm Mike Pittman, her husband, pinch hitting again for Sherry. Joining us on the show today is Herman Senor. Herman is a candidate for Alderman in Ward 2 in Springfield, Illinois. How you doing, Herman?
Good afternoon, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to get right to it, Herman. I've known you for a number of years, known your family for a number of years, but I want you to tell our viewers, tell us about your upbringing. I know you're born and raised here in Springfield.
Yeah, born and raised in Springfield, educated in Springfield School District. Went to college at Coastal Carolina College. When I got out of college, didn't know what I wanted to do, so I did a term in the United States Navy. Before I went in the Navy, though, I married my college sweetheart, and come this April, we will have been married for 31 years, and we have 3 children. All of them are adult children. 2 of them have their college degrees, and the oldest one is pursuing a law degree from the Robert McKinney School of Law in Indianapolis. And the middle girl has a degree in biological sciences and a minor in chemistry from SIU Edwardsville. And Herman is currently a sophomore at Quincy University studying business management.
Now your son's a pretty good athlete, just like you were at one time too, isn't he?
He's probably about 10 times better than I was, Mike.
Okay, all right. Now, how long were you in the Navy?
Did 4 years.
Did 4 years,
yes.
Okay. So you got out with honors, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I was honorably discharged, and I enjoyed serving my country.
Okay, well, good. I want to get right to it, Herman. Why do you want to be Alderman in Ward 2?
I've seen Ward 2 change vastly, and it's going to change again because there was a new map drawn. So with the sitting of the next Alderman in Ward 2, you're going to encompass areas in downtown Springfield and areas north of Carpenter Street. I feel I have a lot to bring. I have a vested interest in the city of Springfield, and I want to make some changes and see Ward 2 thrive and strive the way it used to when I was growing up in Ward 2.
Now, how did you come to the conclusion to run? I know you had to have a lot of thought in terms of, once you're in public eye, your life is never your own anymore, and everything you do is magnified. Are you ready for that challenge?
Yes, after discussions with my wife, discussions with my mother. My wife gave me the okay, so I decided I think I want to put my hat and become a good public servant.
Okay, yeah. And for those you don't know, your sister was also involved in politics, a public servant at one time also, too.
Yeah, she was the first elected black Sangamon County official in Springfield, Illinois.
And wasn't she also the first in the whole county of state of Illinois, I believe, at one time, too?
in any of the counties in the state of Illinois, yes.
Okay. Now, talking about the boundaries, what are the current boundaries? I know you said they're going to change at some point, but what are the current boundaries that are in Ward 2?
The current boundaries basically go from north of Bunn Park to Carpenter Street, and then all points east to Taylor Avenue.
Okay.
But the new boundary is going to start at Taylor and Stevenson on the southeast corner and go west down Stevenson to Foxbridge Road, and basically north on Foxbridge to Bunn Park, and then west on Stanford to 11th Street, and then north on 11th to Bryn Mawr.
Okay.
And then west on Bryn Mawr to 10th Street, and basically up 10th to Ash, and then up 10 and a half to Clay Street, where it goes over to 3rd Street on the west end, and then up to Capitol Street, and then east on Capitol to 10th, and north on 10th to Enterprise, east on Enterprise to Park, north on Park to 15th, and then south on 15th to basically it's Miller Street, and then east on Miller to 19th, and then south on 19th down to Lawrence, east on Lawrence to Wheeler, south on Wheeler to Kansas, west on Kansas to 19th, south on 19th to South Grand, east on South Grand to Pope, south on Pope to Laurel, east on Laurel to Taylor, and then back south to Stevenson Drive.
Now, could you repeat that? I think I didn't. No,
I'm out of breath.
Boy, you've learned the ward pretty good, and I guess you've been doing a lot of canvassing in that ward, so I guess you probably know what those particular areas are at this point.
Yes, we have done a lot of canvassing, and we've met a lot of people, met a lot of new people, met some old people, rekindled some old relationships that I had that forgot, that you have when you're growing up. You kind of lose track of some people, and then you find them again. So that's currently what's happening in our lives now as we run this race for Alderman.
Now, speaking of the ward, what would you see as the #1 problem facing Ward 2?
Well, right now, Mike, with the shootings, I guess they're starting a little earlier this year with the young people. In the previous debates, one of the candidates brought up a community center, which I think is a very good idea. I would like to see our youth have a place to go, because right now, there's no place for them to go. There's a Boys and Girls Club. They don't let the kids come into schools after hours. Matter of fact, when the school's out, they basically run the kids out of the schools. But there's nowhere for our youth to go and enjoy themselves as youth, really.
You think that the Boys and Girls Club could possibly be enhanced some sort of way in terms of making it available and being able to fit that need?
I wish it could, but we need satellite places, because the Boys and Girls Club basically located on the north end of Ward 2. I would like to see a place out south here, right around in this area. Just throwing out an idea, I would like to take the Hobbs building and have some realtors and developers look at it and see if we can't change that over and incorporate some type of community activity center there.
How would you think we could pay for that in terms of keep it ongoing? I mean, I know it's a big undertaking to do something like that.
Hopefully, get partnership with some public and private entities, get some grant money, state grant monies also. I think when you start talking about having programs for youth, a lot of people will start buying into that, and maybe we could get some finances thrown at the project that way.
Okay. Fly dumping is a major issue in Ward 2. How would you propose to deal with that as an alderman?
Well, there's a proposal now talking about putting the garbage bill on everyone's CWLP bill. I'd have to go into further discussions about that and find out what all the pros and cons are. But we as citizens have to be vigilant when we see people in this act, because it's our community. You have to know that there's a proper way to get rid of the garbage, and if we become more vigilant in looking at fly dumping as well as other activities that are taking place that aren't right in our community, I think the community will start to change.
You think so? Neighborhood watches would be a good way in order to take care of that, have neighborhood captains that can actually address those type of issues and problems before they actually get out of hand, because I know you have repeat offenders in terms of landlords that have derelict properties and really don't have the tenants take care of it. So
yeah, that's one way to look at it. And I'd have to look more closely at putting the garbage bill on the CWLP bill, because that would incur some more manpower hours. Obviously, it was you'd have to do some more computer things with that, and I'm not sure what all would be entailed in coming up with that.
Take a look at it
yes.
really in more detail. Okay.
Yes.
I know one of the things you talked about is establishing a beautification fund. How would that be utilized?
What we would do is have residents apply, and it seems like when people pay for something, they're more apt to go through with it. So there would be a small, application fee. So we would know that people are really serious about trying to beautify the neighborhoods. We want to see landscaping with people's housing. We want to see people decorate their houses for Christmas time. We want people to buy into living in the neighborhood. And if you get, like I said, if you can get people to start buying into the neighborhood, they'll start taking care of it a little bit better, I think. And I think the problem would come in with the people that are renting that really don't care. You're always going to have some transient people in and out. So we just want to do something that's going to get people in the neighborhood involved in the neighborhood and involved in the community. So overall.
Okay. This has been a big talk. I know about a lot of people in Ward 2 and the same with the city, talking about minority hiring in the police and fire department. What would you propose, or what's your take on in terms of increasing those numbers in those departments?
I've talked to the fire department specifically, and I don't know if a lot of people know, but they have an Explorer program now for 14-year-olds and up. I would ask them to expand that program down to middle school and even elementary school, because if we can get to the kids early and say these are people that are supposed to be public servants, these aren't people that you're supposed to be scared of now addressing to the police department, and maybe they could come on board and have annual community days where the police go into the schools and share with the kids, and I would ask the firemen to open the fire stations up 3 days a week, since there's 3 different shifts. Ask them to open the fire stations up 3 days in a row consecutively, so the people in the community can go into the fire station and get to know their firemen, and then the police can come into the schools, and the kids can get to know their community policemen.
Okay. And I know that this has been a topic for a number of years as it relates to minority hiring in the police department and fire department, and it seems like every election cycle it's always been a big issue, especially with the recent retirements of several of African Americans that had worked in the police department some years ago. And then I know they've talked about different types of programs in terms of to increase those numbers, but I still think there's probably a lot of work to do on that though.
Yeah, if we can get our kids at a younger age to know that these jobs are available, and these are some jobs that you could possibly go into when you get older. I don't know if that aspect of it is out there now and available to these young kids, but I think if we can get them exposed to the firemen and the policemen at an earlier age, and maybe that'll turn the thinking around. And I think one other thing is in the schools, and I'm not talking bad about the schools, but if we can kind of change the wording, because we always tell our kids, well, the message to the kids is if you don't go to college, you're not going to be anything. If we can change the message and say there's other avenues available to you if you don't go to college. Mm-hmm. Think about, even though some people have to require a degree for policemen and firemen. I'm talking about the trades now, because we're on the unions about not hiring people for certain union positions, electricians and steam fitters and pipe fitters and laborers and plumbers. If we can, get the message out to these young people earlier that, maybe if you think about going into these trades, and this is another option available to you besides going to college.
Speaking about the ward, what are the demographics of the ward in terms of, income, black, white? Are you familiar with what those demographics are?
I'm familiar with the demographics of the race. It's supposed to be 63% minority. As far as the income, I'm not sure, and black, white, or Mexican, or Latino, or any other. I'm not sure what that breakdown is.
So it's probably the most diverse ward in the city, I would say, then, right?
Hands down, it is. Well, probably Ward 3 would probably be close second to Ward 2, but I would like to know what those numbers are, because that would be something I would like to research myself.
Okay. We all know that this is quote unquote a nonpartisan election. But if elected alderman, how would you work with the other aldermen in order to effectuate change in Ward 2?
I'm glad you asked that question. The first thing I'm going to do is cultivate relationships. You have to go on there and make sure that your positions are known, but you can't go on yelling and screaming. You got to get on there and find out how the council works, what you can do to become a better part and a better working part of the council. The thing I've seen if you can look at the council as it's made up today, and come to your own conclusion about who's getting things done and who's not getting things done. I want to be an alderman that's known for, when I get on the council, to be able to cultivate those relationships and get things done for the constituents in our ward, knowing that everything has to be done and there's an order for everything that's going to be done. So sometimes it just takes a matter of time for things to get done in your ward, and I would have an open line of communication with my constituents to let them know that also.
Okay. What businesses are not a good fit for Ward 2?
I'm glad you asked that, Mike, because when I grew up in Ward 2, and this is just an example of some of the businesses I remember, there was a donut shops on Cook Street, and then there was one on 11th and Edwards. There's a Cleaners right there on 15th and Cook. There was a drugstore at 15th and Cook also. And then there was a Caster's grocery store at 11th and Cook. And then there was another Caster's at 13th and South Grand, which later became IGA. We had a grocery store right next to us for a time. It was called Gundy's. And then there was also, that became a state office building at one time. And then there was a Cow Chow and Sandy's on 18th and South Grand. And we had Miss Schomburg's, which was a penny candy store. I think the 7-Eleven business would be good. I know it's kind of like the ones that are already there, but we need some black-owned businesses like that, Mike. A lot of these businesses that are popping up that are the corner stores are not black-owned. We need some black-owned businesses. Then maybe we can strip mall some businesses. I remember one time you had a business on 11th Street, you and Kevin Gamble, and businesses like that, and we could kind of piggyback one business off of the other that folks will patronize. We need a business that they're going to patronize, if not every day, every other day, or 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah. Now, speaking of, as you start talking about business, how do you, or have you given any thought in terms of the whole thing of entrepreneurship when we talk about blacks owning businesses in a particular ward, to get, a lot of blacks thinking along those lines in terms of, being able to operate the business, because we all know that this is a seat of state government here, and it's easy to go get a state job or a county job or a city job or whatever, and really not take that plunge into being an entrepreneur. What are your thoughts on that in terms of getting people to see the importance of ownership?
My wife keeps telling us we gotta find us a mousetrap to build, and you have to find I think everybody can find a mousetrap to build, But the second step is really stepping out there on faith and trying it. I think we're scared of failure, and not necessarily failure, but not being able to accomplish the ends to our means. And that's a hard question, really, because I would like to get into business, but maybe we just don't know how to go. What's the first step we take? What's the second step we take? Who do I contact? Where do I go? And I think maybe that might be the overall opinion or the overall mindset in the black community.
Yeah, you know, one of the things you talk about is the businesses, a lot of the businesses that are in the black community right now are owned by African Americans. And one of the things being is that this is kind of not a Springfield thing, but it's also a nationwide problem in terms of the number of disposable dollars that blacks have in this country, which is over $1 trillion, which is equal to the 12th largest country in the world, gross national product, but yet over 96% of those dollars we spent outside of our community. So these are some of the reasons why we don't have economic prosperity. So, I mean, that is an age-old question and problem, and I think if you can solve that problem, you could probably be president one day.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because my wife and I discussed, there was a time when blacks owned a lot of businesses and blacks went to their businesses, and I think it got to a point where we weren't satisfied with what we have. We wanted to have what somebody else had, and we forgot that we had these things. And we didn't have to go outside of our culture to get those things, but somebody told us that we had to, and we kind of bought into that, Mike.
Well, one of the things being, too, is that when you start talking about economically depressed areas and owning businesses, there is the whole issue of crime. People want to feel safe when they have a place of business, and as well as the people that come to there. And, you know, we talked about crime. You talked about the recent shootings spree that's taken place. What can we do to reduce crime in Ward 2?
You know what, Mike? I would like to get all the people that own barbershops and ask them that question, because it seems like there's a lot of black barbershops. I mean, you know, there's, and just the ones that I know, there's one up on North Grand. There's one here on Cook. There's one on South Grand. 18th Street, and there's even one on North Street. And I think there's one on South 9th Street. I'm sure there's one on South 9th Street across from the plumbing building there. So, you know, these guys are in business. They're making money. Why can't we mirror that, but just bring that over to Ward 2?
You know, one of the things, too, when you start, dealing with the ward, there is an over an abundance of vacant lots on the east side of Springfield. I know that the Springfield project is proposing to do some housing in that particular ward, and, which actually will, help the economic base in that ward. What's your feeling on that in terms of more residential development?
I would like to see residential development. I would like to see the areas that are for residential development stay that way. But then if you do that, how are you going to allow for businesses to come in? So there has to be a meeting of the minds. If we want businesses to come in, we have to have a place for those businesses to come in. But I'd like to see a little bit, I'd like to see more houses built in the areas where they can be built. Let's get these landlords or get these people, landowners that own these empty vacant lots to start erecting houses and building houses, because if they build houses and build nice houses and get people in there that keep the houses up, I think that's one of the caveats that will help Ward 2 turn itself around.
Okay. I know here recently they had the meat processing plant that was recently approved to go over on Stanton and Stevenson Drive.
Yes, sir.
Had you been Alderman, what would your vote have been on that particular issue?
Oh, after I've done my research and the way that the current Alderman did, I think I probably would have voted for it also. At first I was against it because I'm like, a meat plant coming in here, they're going to slaughter animals. But then we went down to Auburn, we looked at where that plant is located, and it's located right downtown, and there's some houses right situated around the current plant. And there's from what we were told, there's a Department of Ag inspector on scene every day that they're going to do the slaughtering. And the slaughtering is limited to 1 day a week. But they can bring in, I guess, skinned deer or something, process the deer there also. So that's a concern. But the concern is the cleanliness and the smell. And we were told that these weren't really major concerns because there's not supposed to be any smell outside of the plant. Everything's supposed to be contained. The slaughtering's done inside. My major concern, though, now is the gentleman said he was going to bring in 20 jobs. So I asked the current Alderman Well, of those 20 jobs, how many of those jobs are going to go to people in the area? How many of those jobs are going to go to minorities? And I never got an answer. And then I asked the young man, and he said, well, he couldn't give me an answer also. He said, the answer I got was these people have to be trained to do this type of work. Well, I understand that, but you can hire them and train them at the same time that you're hiring them. We're set up an apprenticeship program. I would like to see at least 5 people of those 20 at least be new hires from the area that you're coming into.
It makes sense in terms of you buying into the neighborhood, too.
Yes, sir.
So, and speaking of Alderman Gail Simpson, current Alderman, one of the reasons that she decided to run for mayor is that she was frustrated in the job as Alderman, saying that it was hard to get anything done. What will be your approach in terms of taking a different approach, if you will, in terms of trying to get things done for the ward?
I think cultivating the relationships, making sure that the other aldermen know I'm here to work with you. I'm not trying to work against you. We need things for my constituents in Ward 2, just like you need things for your constituents. Our constituents pay taxes. Our constituents work. Our constituents are concerned about their neighborhoods and their streets and the businesses that come in here. And you know, it's Springfield. I just Friday listening to the radio, I still hear people getting on there saying East Springfield. The mayor's race is going to be decided possibly by the voters in East Springfield. Well, what determines East Springfield? Are you stopping at 11th Street? Are you stopping at the railroad tracks at 3rd Street? Are you going to stop at MacArthur Street? When are you going to stop labeling us as East Springfield? And when do we become another part of Springfield again, just like we were before you all decided that we were East Springfield?
Endorsements. I know you received some endorsements for this election. How important are endorsements, and who have been some of the people that have endorsed your organizations?
I think endorsements are very important. It shows that people have confidence in you, people believe that you can do the job, and people want to see you on the council and perform in a positive manner and be successful in your role as alderman. One of the endorsers is Courier. I've heard I was going to get an endorsement from Larry Bomke. I've gotten endorsed by the Trades and Labor Council. Local Firefighters Local 37 is sponsoring me. So those are the endorsements that I have right now that are public.
Okay. A couple other questions, Herman. Right now, I think there's some talk about having an ordinance somebody sponsoring an ordinance dealing with food truck vendors in the city of Springfield. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Mike, I think that was an isolated incident. It happened in the parking lot at Shop and Save on South Grand. And as far as any other things, I do know that the food trucks aren't allowed downtown now. So I think it's really a moot point, but I would hope that any ordinance that does come about from that, it doesn't hinder those people that do have the food trucks, because those people have thought of an idea and a way to make money by having this food truck. And if we want businesses in Springfield to be competitive, and we want business in Springfield to thrive, then we should allow those people that came up with the idea of having a food truck to be able to participate in that arena.
Do you have any mentors, Herman? Who is your mentor?
Of course, my sister Candace Trees is my mentor. Corey Job's one of my mentors. My biggest mentor is my father, Mike, as you know. Very important person in my life. Straight up guy, loved him. And he was very hard on us. There were 7 of us, and my father's always straight to the point. He didn't graduate high school, but he did get his GED, and he raised 7 kids. And I never forget the day that he got sick. I looked at him and I said, "Are you ready to go?" And he just smiled and said, "Yes."
Wow. And on that note, Herman, I just ask, you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, Mike, I appreciate you having me on here. I hope I can convince someone to vote for Herman Senor and Team Senor in the upcoming Ward 2 election. I feel we are very qualified and capable to do the job, and I would like much to be the next alderman in Ward 2. Thanks again for having me.
Okay. Herman, thank you for agreeing to being on the show. April the 7th, make sure you get out and vote. Alderman, Ward 2, race Herman Senor. We also extended an opportunity for Ward 2 candidate Teresa Haley also to come on the show, but she wasn't able to come because of other time commitments. So hopefully we might be able to get her on before the election. So thanks for watching, and make sure you vote on April the 7th. Take care.